You
No.
don't there's a little button on the side of Restream that you can actually have, like, intro music, and they give you the non-commercial stuff, and it's like
Oh, right. Because because when I first started doing lives, what was happening was Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram were picking up that it was Beyonce or whatever I
Oh,
was playing, and they were blocking the
of course it
entire
was
audio
Beyonce.
out. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
So
picture you to be a Beyonce dude, mate.
you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
What do you got planned
Hey,
for the weekend, my bro?
not too much, big fella. I was gonna hopefully get out and do some lawn maintenance, but the rain is, heavy as, man. I
Is
think
it?
it's restricting everything. Yeah, it's been terrible down here.
Wow,
Absolutely.
wow.
So, yeah, probably some stuff indoors, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, it's about -1 here at the moment.
Yeah,
Freaking
nice.
freezing. Ugh.
You know, the worst part about having sun and rain is I've got a veggie garden out there and I'm growing veggies and they're just going off. Like, it's awesome. But I grew, squash, they're about this big.
Yeah.
But I grew one about this big. A freaking squash is the size of a pumpkin.
I don't know if that's
And,
what you want, dude. From a
no,
squash.
I don't know, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna gut it and use the insides and mix it with some mince and roast it or something and see what happens. So
bloody beautiful.
I hate to see what's out there, dude. I reckon I've got, cucumbers that are gone. I know what you're thinking you do.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't want to go down that line.
Let it go.
Oh, I won't. So anyway, good morning, guys.
Yeah.
Good afternoon or good evening, wherever the hell you are. I hope you're well and having a beautiful start to your weekend. If you're on the northern hemisphere side and kind of over this part of the world, it's obviously Friday afternoon. Hope you've got the Friday feels. We're going to be starting this episode in 1 minute. So who we got in here? Who the boys? Tezza, what's going on, brother? Sean's in here as well. We've got a Facebook user. If I'm not mentioning your name, it's because you need to just hit that Restream link. So in the bottom of the post that you see probably above you, there's a little link. It'll click and we can see who you actually are. That'd be nice. Amy, what's going on, girlfriend? I hope you're good. Guys, we're starting this episode in 1 minute. So hello. We've got a few Facebook users in here. Hey, guys. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because we use a streaming software to be able to go across to multiple platforms. As an example, Mike and I are both live on our individual profiles, and that's impossible to do with Facebook alone. So, hey, Sammy, how you going, girlfriend? Got a couple of new crew in here, which is nice. Guys, we're starting in 30 seconds, and this is going to be a fun chat. I would love for any of you to participate in this and add anything that you think is relevant. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I've done some close to PR deadlifts this morning. Man,
Jeez, he's back.
this new program is fucking unbelievable. So
He's back.
cardio, boys. Look at this warped bicep. It's so bad.
I'm getting some.
Anyway, let's do this, guys. I think we're ready to
mate.
go. Hey, Lozzie. Hey, Ames. Sorry. All right, we're good. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs, and we're coming to you live on this beautiful Saturday morning Australian time, Friday rest of the world. And we thought we'd have more of a reflective, relaxing conversation. And Mikey's on the podcast. Good morning, Mikey. How do you?
Good morning, handsome. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm just looking, man, and you're looking very attractive this morning, but you do have a bit of a winter moon tan. I'll be needing to get some sun on that face, brother.
You know what? I reckon it's the lighting. Let me get a yellow light. Is that better? No, definitely.
Anyway, guys, good morning. I hope you're having a good start to the weekend. What we're going to talk about this morning is just a bit of an interesting topic. And it is this idea of what would the 40-year-old me tell the 20-year-old me? And I think I'm trying to remember how old I am. I'm turning 42 next year. How old are you, Mikey? I lost it there.
Is that like your height? You just sort of you go backwards with your age, but go up with your height.
Right. How old are you?
I'm 45. I'll be 46 next year. Yeah.
All right, so combined age, call it like mid-90s, right? So a couple of old folk here. So what we thought we'd do is have a bit of a discussion on like what would you, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself? So probably first question I wanted to ask you is like, why is this conversation of any benefit to anyone listening at all? What do you reckon?
I think reflection is a wonderful thing on enhancing your life. If you're going through something at the moment that you're not sure about, whether it's a transformation or whether it's a direction in life, if you've got people that have been through things in life,
Mm.
that are like, it's like having a mentor, I guess, in a way. If you've got people that have been through things in life and are reasonably successful in them, you'll learn a shitload from that and having that direction. So if you haven't got a clue, and you don't have the tools to find the clue, it's better to go to somebody or people's or experienced people that have been through the shit and can offer that advice to you. So I think the relevance is, you might get some tools out of this that will just flick that switch to push you forward in ABC or whatever it is in life.
Love that.
That's why I think relevance. Yeah.
So I've got a really interesting question to ask all of the viewers that are listening live, and it's going to be a very, very random question.
I love your randomness.
I Google searched the following question a couple of moments ago. How many humans have lived on Earth? How many humans have lived on Earth?
Jesus.
Yeah, pretty profound,
All
right?
of them?
All of them. So how many humans have lived on Earth? So I'd love to get some comments in the comment section, obviously for the live viewers. How many? What would you guess? So, Mikey, I'll ask you. What's your guess? Put some comments in, and I'll award and anoint the person that gets closest. How many humans have lived on Earth? How many?
Oh, dude, that's. Well, I don't even think there's enough zeros.
Well, come on, take a stab.
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, a trillion, billion, zillion.
Come on, mate. Pick a number. How many?
Well, how many have lived? All of them have lived once, and then they've died, right?
Yeah, correct. So base it on say population of China's like what, 1 billion or something.
Well,
like
there's
that.
8 billion. There's 8 billion alive now. Well,
Okay. So
right.
now just do some maths. You know what? You're not playing well. So I'm going to go with Sammy's answer.
Good.
100 billion, right? She's actually really, really close, right?
She's
really
good at Google searching.
Yeah. 117 billion
Yeah, right.
humans have lived on Earth. 117 billion humans have lived on Earth. Now, what's the relevance of asking that question? Well,
There's a lot of experience.
there's a lot of wisdom locked up, right? And you would think, isn't it, like I was thinking to myself the other day, isn't it funny that we're all on this journey through life that lasts somewhere between 50 and 100 years for most people, and like, isn't it weird that that's been done 117 billion times?
Yeah, wow.
Yet we act as if it's our duty to try to make it in the world ourselves. Like, isn't that just so fucking egotistical to think that way? If you could instead understand now that you've got a number, there's 117 billion people that have done what you are doing and what I am doing right now. Do you think there is any lessons to be gleaned in that? And I'm not saying that Mike and I are the absolute oracles of wisdom. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that the point that we want to raise here is that one of the greatest things you can do in life is model what's working. Okay? To model what's working. The second thing that you don't do is understand a lesson, learn a lesson, but then not do anything about it. So we're going to go one for one here, and we're going to talk about some different things that we've come to the feeling of that we would do differently. What's your number one, brother?
Number one would be, and this is something that I've been diving deep on lately, is managing your energy. Now, that involves a number of steps. I think prioritizing self-care, setting boundaries in life, doing things that boost your like your fun and enjoyment in life, how you handle your time each day effectively, like things like that. I think so. Energy is not just about your physical being; it's your mental being as well. I explain it to a lot of people is. I used to be in construction and I'd get guys going, how can you be so tired? You don't do any physical work when I was in management. And I'd be like, well, mate, I have to think a lot, and thinking a lot, drains your brain energy. And why is not physical? I was absolutely, cracked by the end of the day because I had to think all this, solve all these problems and be this leader and do all these things. So I didn't have the ability back then to manage my mental capacity, and that's by setting boundaries, as I said before, time management, putting my will and energy into the right things rather than wasting so much time on this one thing that may have been a big problem or small problem that wasn't even worth its time. So self-care, for me, number one, out of those things, having the ability to say no, to stop, to rest. Like, resting isn't quitting, resting's resting. We got to remember that. People go, oh, if you're resting, you're quitting. No, I'm not David Goggins, right? I'm
Think
not
about
David Goggins.
if we think about like managing your energy, almost like managing your bank account.
Yeah,
If we think about it at a bank account and we break it down into what am I depositing, where are my investments coming in, and
yeah,
where am I withdrawing from this bank account? We could probably think about managing your energy the same way, because when you say to me, just you got to manage your energy, all I can think about is like, I've just got to be careful what I put my energy on. But then what I'm missing out of that equation is what I can do that gives me life energy, that gives me
correct.
inspiration. So
Yeah,
if we break it down into what are the things that give us energy, what are the things that sap our energy, right? And look at them as like a P&L, right?
yeah,
If we can
yeah.
get that right. Give me.
Absolutely perfect. I think people, and me being an empath, Jace, like,
Mm,
I have to be super conscious of that because I absorb everybody's energy. When I
mm,
sit down and listen to our clients or people in my life,
mm.
and I actually am present with them, I absorb it. Like, I become that, and like that is draining. And that's not saying that's a negative thing. That's like that's the part I love about my job the most, is I have the will and energy to do that. But I have to make sure that I don't take that afterwards into the rest of my life. Like, if someone has had a really bad day and I've managed to get them through it, and it's really depressing what they've been through, and I'll feel that I can't come out the other side and let that flow into the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
that's why I mean by prioritizing what you put your energy into is so, like, adamant for what comes out later on. If you don't have that boundary to stop and say, hey, cool, I've done this thing, that's about it, let's move on to the next thing, I'll absolutely be like, I'll
Yeah.
have no battery energy left and I can't give it to anybody else.
Yeah. Dude, I love that so much. And
Yeah.
and Sam says it's your superpower, Mike. I totally agree with that, Sammy. So probably the first lesson that I'd go back to is this idea that success or growth or happiness, however you want to put it. I would say to my 20-year-old self that is your responsibility. That's
Mm,
your responsibility. And I think what a lot of people do is they work really hard, or they try to do things for other people, and they're doing them at the expense of themselves. And I get why. Like, we're trying to make it for ourselves in the world, we're trying to impress people, maybe we're trying to earn more money, whatever. We're trying to attract a person into our life that maybe we want to spend our time with. And so if we're always doing things to show up the best way we can for other people, we're losing sight of ourselves. And I think one of the lessons that I'd say is it is your responsibility. If you were depressed, right, and this is going to sound brutal in a way, but if you were depressed, like, I get it, like, it's a chemical thing, it's a real thing. There's no,
mm.
like, I'm not saying depression doesn't exist, but it is. You might go with the idea that it's not my fault, but it's my responsibility to solve it. And I think if you continue shirking responsibilities for what's going on in your life, then you're never really going to get ahead. One of the best things that I've ever been told is your life is a printout of the way you think. And
Well, that's awesome.
but the problem is that to take responsibility for that, that's a really hard thing to do. Isn't
Yeah,
it? Like, then you
yeah,
think about that. It's like, nah, like, I had a tough start, and that's all true. Like, we'll have different starts. Some people are lucky to be born into a family that might have more money, more love, whatever. I get that, right? So not all the starting points are even, but you just
the end point's the same.
when you get on the
Yeah,
coaching side of things, what you start to realize is the reason that a lot of people have a life that they don't want is because they're just blaming everything else,
yeah,
and rather than taking responsibility. Now, trauma, as an example, is something that my gosh, how do you accept if something's been done to you that wasn't your fault? How do you accept responsibility for that? Like, that's
That
a
takes
very
time.
difficult thing to do,
Yeah,
man.
it is a difficult thing to do, but it's not that you can't do it. I've done it. There's millions of other people that have had the opportunity to accept it
Mm,
for what it happened and
mm,
forgive yourself about, being in that position, whether it was your fault or not.
mm,
But it's refreshing, and it's life changing for me to have reflection on the
mm.
past and use all that negative energy to put into some positive output.
Yes.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
it's not easy, and I'm not sitting here going to advocate and beat my drum and say, hey, fucking do it. It's just something you can do. No, it takes a lot of work,
A lot of work.
a
Yeah.
lot of consistency.
And Adsy says victim mentality. That's it. And I know that that's something that you've sort of battled for a lot with this ad. So you can speak firsthand. I think that where there is the creation of a vision, like you ask yourself frequently, what do I actually want in my life? And you
Mm,
work hard to acquire the skills to get there, you will eventually get there. But the problem
yeah,
is that if you don't take responsibility that, this is my fault, I have to do something about this, then you never get there. All right,
yeah.
let's go to you, bro. What's number 2 for you?
I think it's training for longevity, and when I say by that, it's like
Mm,
I'm putting aesthetics aside now, and it's more about functionality for the future. It's for mobility when I'm older. It's for balance. It's for not falling down the staircase. When I'm in my 80s, where a lot of people do, and break things, and it's harder to repair. I think consistency in training for like getting the ego out of the road now. I don't lift super heavy anymore. I know you had a PB this morning, which is awesome, but for me, like I'm like focusing on functionality more than anything.
yeah.
I think it's because my interests in endurance is starting to sort of slow off a little bit, and I'm actually like enjoying shorter rides with my wife and things like that. So I'm not training for endurance anymore. It's just training for
Mm,
longevity. I think listening to my body more is really important, especially getting older. Like, I
mm.
mean, I'm 45. I'm not saying I'm decrepit, but it takes a lot longer to recover. And if I don't have those days where I go, I'm feeling it today, I'm just gonna, knock the steam off it, or I'm gonna just do some walking or something that's nice, light and functional.
Mm.
But I think, like we talk about this all the time, is I don't want to be that 85, 90-year-old guy that's hunched over and his spine's all tangled and his legs don't move. And like, I want to I mean, God forbid nothing happens, but I want to be able to still be like in the gym lifting. I still want to be walking. I still want to pick my grandkids
So,
up and not worry about my back. And
so can I ask? This sounds like uh, advice from a 45-year-old to advice from a 45-year-old. Like,
yeah,
how would this
true.
apply to you going back in time? Because I'm thinking that for the average 20-year-old, like training for aesthetic isn't a bad thing. If it's helping
That's,
to build confidence
of
and
course, yeah, that's the end result. But I don't think it's all about, to me, it's okay. When I'm in my 20s, it's all about show. Now I'm in my 40s, it's all about go, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's the difference for
yeah.
me. If I could go back in my 20-year-old self, I'd say, hey, just get to the gym. It's not about looking good for them, it's looking good
Build
for
the
you.
habit. Yeah.
Feeling good, build the habit, yeah, and continue it on. I missed, like, I reckon if I had that 20 years, I mean, I've only started late.
Mm,
So if I did have that 20 years, I
mm.
would be in a different position. I mean, I might, look like a nugget like you, which would be awesome, but that's just not who I am.
Dude, that's so funny that you say that. And we've got someone here saying, I can totally relate. My goals are similar, especially now I work in aged care. 100,000%. The next thing I had on the list, Mike, was that uh, a good self image is far more important than being liked.
Mm.
Now, that kind of
That
that
that was
comes
a perfect segue.
it's a perfect segue because what you're saying there is that there's a level of aesthetic which is vanity,
Mm.
which is fair. Like that's completely
Yeah.
reasonable. But if you're to develop a confident self image when you were younger, then that's going to take care of itself, and the aesthetic component can be. I don't think there's anything wrong with you wanting to make yourself more attractive. That's smart, if
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But at the same account, I do totally get that. Like if you're hinging everything on looking more attractive, then fuck, when you hit 40, 50, 60, you're going to be in for a, you know, it's it's what it is, you know.
Yeah.
So where this applies to me was that I feel like I did spend a portion of maybe my late teens, early 20s trying to get in with the popular crowd, which, if I think about that in hindsight, it's just like the majority of the guys that I'm thinking about that I would have been trying to get in with, and I'm not being critical, but right now they are doing very little, like very little.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was
It's
that
the irony of that situation, isn't it?
it is.
We fight tooth and nail to become popular, and
Yeah.
then the popular become
Yeah.
demonetized and pushed further down the chain, and you're actually way above that level
Yeah.
that you wanted to be at.
And I remember, I used to go to parties, as a young fella, and I would really struggle to turn up to the parties, and I'll get anxious, like social anxiety behind it. And what I thought is that no one else has that, but I do have that. And then what I've come to realize now that I'm 40 is nearly everyone feels that. Like, for example, when my wife says to me, "Hey, Jace, we've got my friend from school's 40th birthday this weekend." And the first thing that comes over my mind, like immediately, is, fuck, I'm going to have to talk to all these people that I don't know. And it's like, and I'm really confident and have a good self image, but that's what washes over my mind. And I have to train
Yeah.
myself to kind of go, no, that this is a good opportunity to meet some people, and you don't know many people in Canada, and it's just a change. Everyone has that social anxiety, I think, that takes a while to move through.
Yeah,
But if
there's a portion of it. It's funny because you don't judge, right? But I don't see you that like that. Like I wouldn't see that be going through your head,
yeah,
knowing the type of guy you are and the
yeah,
vibrancy that you bring. It'd be like, fuck yeah, I got to meet people. I get to
yeah,
spread my word because I want to impact the world. I
yeah.
didn't think you'd be that guy that would be like, holy fuck, man, I've got to
No,
actually
I
be
still get it.
human.
No, I
Yeah,
still get it because
wow.
it's very easy to stay in a comfort zone, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like my comfort zone is here in my office where I get to love doing what I'm doing. But
yeah,
then as soon as you leave that, there's you're venturing off into the world where you can get hurt, right? And I think that's a
yeah,
conversation that should be not stigmatized, because how many people are not going out into the world and doing the thing for fear of judgment or fear of
yeah.
rejection?
That's a lot of people, man, doing that.
Dude, let's move to yours.
Yeah, I left this last because I think it's super important. Is the cultivating some sort of resilience in your life, and that leads into what you just were talking about in positive self-image. I think if you can't have a positive self-image and have some self-love and absolute confidence in yourself unless you have some form of resilience, unless you can accept that people aren't going to like you, unless you can accept that you won't be the most important person in everyone's story. You're the most important person in your story. Like, I think that's the biggest lesson in life my 20-year-old self could have learnt is um, appreciate the small things in life. Focus on a lot more gratitude because gratitude, I think, cultivates resilience because you're accepting of all the little things that did
Yeah,
go right and did go wrong,
yeah,
and got you to where you are. Looking at challenges as opportunities rather than like brick walls that are going to stop you from going any further. Like, you've got to learn how to bust through those brick walls, and that takes resilience. That gives you, it takes the ability to have confidence and value in yourself to punch through. The funny part is the roadblocks that we put up in our life. I love this analogy because I kind of coined it myself. Is that we I picture a roadblock is you've driven up to this thing, you've got like the dude with the guard gate down, and he's standing there and he won't let you through, and you're looking at the guy, and it's fucking you, right? It's you that's
uh,
standing there with the gate down, and
yeah.
it's like you have the choice: do you lift it up and drive through, or do you sit there and
Get
wait?
your own way. Yeah,
Fuck that, yeah, you exactly right. So you're the guard at the gate, so pull the fucking thing up, man. But resilience is um, a combination of like internal positive self talk, but also having a fucking circle of humans that are positive and uplifting and can call you out, but can build that character that you want and that you can mimic every single day. Like, if you know that you've got somebody in your life that's been through some shit, and they've got like a turtle shell on all the time. Everything's just bouncing off. Like they're the people you want to hang around with because you will learn so much more from them. It's not just about, having that I don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah.
It's cool and all that. Well,
Passion.
yeah, it's cool to have that. Like I really don't care what people think, but I really care what I think. And like you said before, I pictured when you said what you think in your life, the printout. I've got this sheet coming out my ass, an A4 sheet of my life and how I want it to be. And I think like every day I start my day, it's like, what do I thought about before I went to sleep, and what I think about when I wake up is what's going to happen today. So I want to make sure that I've got the ability to push through and follow through with all that shit. So
Dude, so sick. As he says, clearing the rocks out of the river you flow with your life journey. Yeah, dude, so good. So good, Ads. Absolutely.
yeah,
Probably the final thing that I can add, what would I go back and tell my 20-year-old self? And probably this is like my mid 20-year-old self when I started to get the urge to get into a long-term relationship properly and find the one, so to speak, when I really wanted to become a parent, a dad, and that's always been a driver, but it wasn't happening. This is probably towards my late 20s. And I think about it's important to have patience. And the reason that it's important to have patience, so I'm talking to a guy, let's just say you're listening to this and you're in your mid to late 20s and you're getting a little bit nervous like I was, that what if this never happens? What if I never get to be a dad? Or what if I never get to find the woman or the man of my dreams? Like what then? I'm going to be a lonely old fossil that's going to die in a house and no one will know, and you start to play out these stories.
yeah,
I think that the point I wanted to make was, with patience, now you've got to get out there. You've got to go and meet people. You can't be a hermit. But if you are selective and clear in the type of person that you want, then having kids later in life has been a real benefit for me. Now, you and I are the complete opposite. You've been with your missus basically since high school. You had kids very, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very, very early on.
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite. I met my missus at 38 and we had kids at 38, basically. So it's like complete poles. And I'd say that you would have some amazing stories about having married young, have kids young, which has allowed you to do certain things now. And for me, those things this is a law of polarity. They're equal and opposites. For me, I think it's crazy that I could have been a parent 10 years ago, and the difference in my awareness and how I would have parented 10 years ago would be like, I think what's also fucking crazy to me is that, and the message to this to the high school students that are having unprotected sex, I'm just like thinking to myself, how hard, like how scared you are about like becoming a dad at 21, 22, 23. And yet there's all these people that are, late 30s that if they could only just get pregnant, it'd just be the most wonderful thing in the world. And they're struggling with it and going down, the challenging, other options of parenting. And it's like, man, the polarity in that's crazy. But if you are patient and you have got to your kind of late 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, and you haven't found, like, one of the most fundamental, I think probably the most important decision that you can ever make is who you choose to spend your life with.
Yeah. I look,
let's just like pause for a moment, right? Think about this, right? Think about how many people, and it might be people that are listening to this podcast live or on replay, that are just going, if I'm fucking honest, I'm just the wrong person.
Yeah.
And it's like, to admit that to yourself, that's got to be a really difficult thing, because then what do you do as a consequence if you do admit it? What do you do the fuck as a consequence? Yeah. It is like, like if you don't have shared values around health, around money, around, there's some compromise there in the middle, but Jesus Christ, your life's going to be difficult if you just...
100%. I think we could probably add another element to all this is have some good support for the rest of your life that
Yeah.
people you can lean on because you can't
Yeah.
do it on your own. Like I had an epiphany the other day. It was my son's 11th birthday, and I was up on the bar flipping pancakes and like just a birthday thing I absolutely love doing. And I was watching my wife and the three boys on the couch, and they were giggling and like they were watching these videos, and I was like, "What the heck's going on?" Like it was a beautiful moment, dude. Like I was crying my eyes out flipping pancakes, right? And I said, what are you watching? And they're watching videos of the kids when they were 5 or 6. But they weren't laughing at the kids. They were laughing at me in the background, doing stupid dances and, shaking my ass and pulling my, like whatever. But the point was that was the absolute lowest of my life when I was doing those things in the video, and just shows that through the darkness you can still dance and
Yeah.
portray yourself. But I had support. I had my wife there that got me through that shit. So
Mm.
support, like to me, would be the seventh out of the six that we would go and say, hey, you make sure you've got someone that you can go
There
and
are people around
yeah,
you.
whether it's a wife, a partner, a best friend, a mentor, or somebody, you need someone that can, grab you around the shoulder and say, hey, dude, let's go for a
And
walk.
when you're told that, where like the conventional message, particularly to like what's the dude's name? The like Andrew Tate.
Yeah,
Uh, man, like the way that projection is coming out to a kid who hasn't quite found themselves, and they kind of look up to this guy, and look, he's got plenty of good things to say, but then it's like the brutal way that he delivers it, I just don't really think is the right characterization of a
yeah,
man in its entirety.
correct.
Um, and as a child without that guidance, oh fuck, like difficult. And are we still a child at 20, 25? If I reflect on myself, like I was so freaking green at
Yeah,
25, it's not even funny.
yeah,
When the world started to open, when you travel and maybe take drugs for the first time, and then it's like, I'm not saying that's good, but it's like you start to realize people
yeah.
do this different
You
shit in the
haven't
world.
experienced anything, dude. You haven't had most people haven't had heartache or despair or anything like that at 20 to 25 years of age. Like they haven't. They've just left their nest.
Yeah.
They've had support from their parents or maybe financially or physically or this whole time. They're left to their own vices. They've never had nothing in their account, or they've never hit the wall. Like
Yeah.
they've never fallen
Yeah.
uncontrollably. Like they've never
So how do
experienced.
you so how do you coach a 1 or 2, 3-year-old child if you haven't had those experiences yourself? It's like it's a blind
Yeah,
leading the blind.
yeah.
The
There's no.
upside of that is that obviously you can teach them lessons later in life, and then you can travel later. It's the law of polarity. It's two
Yeah.
sides to everything. Hey, so as we bring this podcast to a close, and this has been a fun discussion. There's 2 points that one point that I want to raise. So you can't go back in time for yourself, right? Clearly, we haven't mastered that yet. So
Working on it.
how can you use this wisdom? And so the 2 conclusions that I've kind of come to here are making some decisions now that you've been too scared to make. Right? Like if something's come up for you through the listening of this podcast where you've just been like, you know what, I wish I could have gone back to my 20-year-old self and told myself that, but you're still breaking that same wisdom now.
Mm.
And lying to yourself or denying the truth of that, it takes a lot of courage to do the thing that you believe in. And you're not too old. Well, you still got a heartbeat. You're not too old.
That's right, dude. That's the biggest problem we face with society. Is like I hate when people say, "Oh, that's just them. They can't change. Like they're too." Yeah, you can.
You can.
You can still be 80. There's people that flick the switch at 80 and maybe get a divorce, and then all of a sudden they're trekking the Himalayas. Like you could do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And the second thought is this: how can you use this wisdom that you've created for yourself? Well, think about the pain that you have felt during your life, and then how can you remove the unnecessary pain from your kids? I'm a firm believer that our kids definitely need to go through some pain to create resilience and the like. So you don't want to softly like spoon your kids into the world and then they're like, fuck, I don't know how to deal with anything. But at the same account, something like being bullied for being overweight as an
Yeah.
example, or you've talked about in previous episodes about the pain of like teeth, right? And you having to do the corrections. I'm looking at Cords, and Cordsy's man, she just didn't brush her teeth properly as a kid. It just wasn't instilled in her as a behavior. And now she's always having these problems with her teeth and they're fucking falling out. And you just think to yourself, well, one of the lessons is like prevent your kid from having to go through that. That's not a necessary suffering, So we can all stop your kids going through pain that you don't necessarily need to put them through because there's no real benefit. I mean, rotting teeth aren't really that beneficial to anyone as a lesson.
Yeah.
Final thing that I wanted to propose in this is, in writing this podcast or preparing some ideas, one of the things that made me think is that in this case, we're the old dudes, talking to the 20-year-old self. But that also means that we can swap positions with a couple of people that are older than us to be able to give us some advice as 50 or 60-year-olds back to our 40-year-old selves.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking that there's two people that I think the wisdom here would be amazing for, and that's Xanth and Nick Friend. I couldn't think of any other people who'd be apt to talk about this. So Xanth and Nick, if you end up listening to this, I would love for you to have the same conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, what are the questions? And then bring you on the podcast and be able to say, as 50 and 60, what advice would you give your 40-year-old self? Because in this case, I'd love to be schooled. I'd love to be coached in some life lessons. And I'm starting to realize that the old dude that wants to sit you down and talk to you and teach you is like it's egoic.
Value in it.
And blow that off, right? There's some real value in learning that. And my dad said to me one day, he said, this is why I love just sitting down and talking to old people. I just get to learn so much. And at the time I was like, fuck off, Dad. I couldn't imagine anything worse. That is actually, I'm not saying Xanth and I'm not calling you guys old. I'm saying
that's you crossed the line there, dude.
And I think it's a great thing to be able to just glean the lessons. If I could like go back and start Better Body Academy 10 years earlier, holy shit. Like I think of where it would be now.
Yeah, but you know what? The relevance of that is you weren't ready. I wasn't ready when I started. You weren't ready when you started. You needed that experience. And that's what we're talking about is you got to go through that shit. Sometimes things are going to go exceptionally wrong before they'll go fucking awesome. So you got to take the risk, right? The gamble is on you. Yeah. Every day you wake up is a risk. So fucking take it. Like,
love it.
Marry the person. Do that thing. You know what's stopping you? Time. You haven't got enough of it.
Yeah. It's the great leveler, isn't it?
Fucking big time. Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going to end the episode there. Thanks for coming in. Hopefully this has been entertaining, beneficial in some way, or getting you to reflect on what lessons maybe you would share yourself. I'm just quickly reading Ben saying, Jace, that is the greatest thing you could tell your 20-year-old self. Listen to people who want to talk to you. Yeah, it's agreeing. Benny, I have nothing further to say to that.
Yep.
This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you for a weekend. I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful start to the week. Go and enjoy yourself, guys. Love you. Yeah. Peace out. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Oh, look at that.
I thought I turned these things off. So the podcast is ended, guys. So
that's hilarious.
If any of you have got Macs, right? Mac has this new thing.
It's on Apple. It's on your phone too now. Be careful. Yeah, because I was talking to Sammy Adigan the other day, and I think this thing happened to her, and she thought it was me that did it, right? She's like, what have you done to my phone? And it wasn't fucking me. Doesn't happen to Microsoft people. We're not that advanced, mate.
It's called gestures, guys. So basically you all of a sudden like do these things like this. What are the ones? So
yeah, I think that thumbs up.
It's so trippy. It's when I started doing it, it was like I turned into the Green Hulk in the middle of a podcast. I was like, what's going on here?
It rattles you. It rattles you, doesn't it?
That'll do me.
Weren't we just talking about how we're not our childish selves anymore?
No. Hey, dude, I'm not talking about that. You know what? I think, hey, guys, for the guys that are still listening, do any of you listen to Jordan Peterson out of
Yeah.
interest? Fuck, man. I just listened to 2.5 hours of a podcast with him yesterday.
Yeah.
And gosh, he's smart. And it was talking about one of the most important activities that a child or a person at any age can engage in is play. Play. How important it is to, wrestle your kids. How important it is to, play. Like when you go to he was talking about how you go to a party and you meet people, and that's a kind of social anxiety that you're having at the start is really a level of qualification around, is this the type of person I want to play with? And then you get to the point of where this is, and then you play with that person, you have a conversation with them, and you muck around, and so I think at essence, staying young is
it's pivotal.
It's pivotal.
When I say staying young, I got these on my desk yesterday, right? That's hilarious, right? Yeah, but the culprit wasn't just my son. I'll tell you, it was my wife as well.
Maybe she's trying to send you some signals, bro. And let's
put the context, right? And she's a kindergarten teacher, and one of her kindergarten kids thought that was a butterfly.
Good.
It's not a butterfly, but hey, I found it on my desk and I pissed myself laughing. Like,
do your thing.
Good
stuff. All right, we're going to leave it there, guys. Have a beautiful weekend. Peace out. Love.